In Washington, we are joined by Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. Welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
It's great to be here. Great to be in person. Thanks for having me, and congratulations on your show.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. I want to start with the attack on Paul Pelosi. It's getting all the headlines this weekend. He's recovering from surgery, expected to do well, have a full recovery. But the Washington Post wasting no time, writing this. For many Democrats, the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband represents the all but inevitable conclusion of Republicans' increasingly violent and threatening rhetoric toward their political opponents. Still a lot we don't know about this case, but what do you make of that accusation?
Well, I think that's unfair. I think this is a deranged individual. You can't say people saying, let's fire Pelosi or let's take back the House is saying go do violence. It's just unfair. And I think we all need to recognize violence is up across the board. Lee Zeldin was attacked. We had an assassination attempt against Brett Kavanaugh. And Democrats didn't repudiate that. Joe Biden didn't talk about the assassination attempt against Brett Kavanaugh. But I think the other thing to remember is if this weren't Paul Pelosi, this criminal would probably be out on the street tomorrow. We saw Lee Zeldin's attacker was on the street right after he attacked him. This is what Democrat policies are bringing. But of course, we wish Paul Pelosi a recovery. We don't like this at all. Across the board, we don't want to see attacks on any politician from any political background.
As President President Obama, we played a little bit earlier, said everybody needs to take down the language a little bit, the rhetoric, and try to disagree on policy ideas, but not to demonize each other. Okay, let's talk about where we are in the midterms. These were the headlines at the beginning of the year. Red tsunami warnings should worry Democrats. How big will the Republican wave be this fall? Then by fall, these are the headlines. Red wave crashing. GOP momentum slips as fall sprint begins. GOP is on defense as chances of a red wave fade. And this is in The Atlantic, saying most Americans consistently say in polls that they believe that President Joe Biden and congressional Democrats have mismanaged crime, the border, and above all, the economy and inflation. So why isn't this a clear GOP blowout at this point?
Oh, we don't know, right? We don't know what it's going to be. What I will say is in 2020, we saw a red wave in the House when we didn't lose a single incumbent and we picked up 15 House seats. And it put us 5 away from taking back the House. And we're seeing that momentum. I feel it on the ground. People are very upset about crime, education, parental rights, about the economy, gas prices. It's death by 1,000 cuts for so many families who can't afford rent, gas, groceries, Halloween candy. Everything's so expensive, and the Democrats own it. They have the White House, the Senate, and the House, and notice they're not running on their record. And I think the American people are looking at this and saying, do we really want to give them this job again for another 2 years? Am I better off than I was 2 years ago? And it's a resounding no, and that's why Republicans have put forward a plan, and I'm very confident that we're going to have great wins on Tuesday, November 8th.
You know the star powers out there. We played a little bit of former President Obama, more from him to come. He's out there echoing a line that we hear from the current president a lot, that Republicans are actually going to go after entitlements. So here is what President Obama said about people who've worked so hard for them and what your plan is.
They had long hours and sore backs and bad knees to get that Social Security. And if Ron Johnson does not understand that, if he understands giving tax breaks for private planes more than he understands making sure that seniors who've worked all their lives are able to retire with dignity and respect, he's not the person who's thinking about you and knows you and sees you, and he should not be your senator from Wisconsin.
And that is something that resonates with voters. I'm sure you hear it. I hear it, too, about people considering their vote. They're very worried about entitlements. It's something that the White House, Democrats all the way down the ticket, continue to talk about. And they say they're pointing to your proposals, to GOP documents to back up that claim. What do you say to voters?
I say that's scare tactics. And I'd say people on fixed incomes right now are dealing with a huge issue with inflation, Biden inflation, which has been caused by Democrats pumping so much money into this economy and abandoning our energy independence, which has cost so much or caused prices to rise across the board. And seniors who are on fixed incomes right now, they are hurting. They are hurting because of Democrat policies. I run into people all the time. They say, I cannot afford my groceries, my drug, my medicine that I need to put gas in my car. And that is because of what Democrats have done. And they own it. They own it. They're running away from it. And the voters are so smart. They're going to hold them accountable for this economy, which is a failing economy.
Okay, so if Republicans have great success, take the House, take the Senate, they can pass things. They can put things together. They're going to get vetoed on the president's desk. So how do you then make the argument? Do Republicans make the argument going into 2024, if that's the scenario, that you guys are actually the party that can get something done?
Well, we do hold the power of the purse in the House, and the Democrats have shown their priorities with their voting. Instead of getting more Border Patrol agents, instead of getting more teachers for the kids who have deficits, instead of getting more police, they got 87,000 IRS agents. That's what they passed. So the House can stop that. And Joe Biden's always talked about how he wants to be unified and work across the aisle. Well, this is his chance, because this is going to be a repudiation of the Democrat Party. They've had the reins for 2 years, and if Republicans have big wins, they better recognize they've got to come to the center and work with us on behalf of the American people. And that is exactly what we are laser focused on. How do we make lives better for the voters who are in desperate need for leadership in Washington, instead of this partisan disaster we're seeing with rising crime, rising inflation, open border, drugs coming across, and kids who are struggling from the Democrat Party.
One of the seats you have to pick up to make this happen in the Senate is Pennsylvania. So I want to give you a chance to respond to the Washington Post reporting on your comments in that race, saying the head of the Republican Party mocks the speaking abilities of Fetterman and Biden. They're talking about a radio show you were on where you talked about them not being able to string together a full sentence. Do you regret at all how that could appear insensitive?
Well, I certainly want John Fetterman to get better, and I would never make fun of somebody who has a stroke. But I will say they should be getting in front of the press, and they're not, and they're hiding. And John Fetterman is following in the steps of Joe Biden. I know I'm conflating the names, but they're sitting in the basement. They're not getting in front of the voters, and they're not being honest about their issues. He just lied about the fact that he wants to ban fracking. He's lied about the fact that he wants to put a third of the criminals back on the streets. These are things he said in his own words. This isn't spin. And so they do need to get in front of the media and answer these tough questions instead of hiding. So I hope they do that.
If President Trump announces that he's going to run in 2024, will there be a competitive, full-throated GOP primary? Is it good or bad for the party?
Shannon, I am not talking about 2024. It is all about 9 days from now and the midterms. And what I will say about President Trump is he has done 30 rallies with our candidates. People actually want to be seen with President Trump, unlike Democrats who don't want to be seen with Joe Biden. He's raised so much money. He's done 50 fundraisers for different candidates. He's raised hundreds of millions of dollars into the committees, the NRCC, the NRSC, and the RNC. So he is out working on behalf of other candidates to make sure we win these majorities.
All right. We will see well, I would say next Tuesday, but we know it's going to take some time for all the dust to settle. Chairwoman, thank you for making time and coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.